The news police are investigating the murder of a senior IPID investigator who previously received death threats. Mandla Mahlangu was shot dead in the east of Pretoria in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The gunman fled the scene in his bakkie with a few household goods, including a television set. Police say they're investigating the robbery as a possible motive. Ian says Barry Bateman is following that story for us and is joining us now in the studio. Good morning, Barry. Just let's start there. Who was Mandla Mahlangu and why would he have received threats on his life before? And what do we know about what happened to him on Tuesday?
Well, Mandla Mahlangu was a senior investigator in IPID, and some of the high-profile cases he was involved in included the investigation of former National Police Commissioner Khomotso Pashane. And if you would go back to that period during the investigations, there was a significant effort to try and undermine not only IPID, but primarily McBride and this particular team who was investigating Pashane. It got to the point, and these are among the submissions that were made at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, that there were advances made on Mahlangu by members of crime intelligence where they had offered him positions in the SAPS if he were to depose to an affidavit which would be incriminating against McBride. Now, McBride at the time was, like I said, was head of IPID. He was leading this investigation. The whole attempt, as we understand it, was to undermine this broader investigation into the SAPS. We know that Mandla Mahlangu was then, there was a disciplinary hearing that was convened against these crime intelligence individuals. And Mandla Mahlangu was one of the witnesses to corroborate, confirm that the recordings that he made of these conversations where he was offered these positions, he was going to confirm the veracity thereof. There was a hearing in October last year. Before he was going to testify there, shots were fired at him near his house. We know now that he's been murdered. That he was scheduled to testify at this hearing next week as well.
Could this robbery, or whatever it's made to look like, be a smokescreen for an assassination?
Absolutely. That is the concern. And if you just look at what happened on the night, we're told that the 5 robbers arrived at the house. Apparently, and this is the version that I'm hearing from, I've seen the internal reports from the police, that they found one of Mahlangu's employees. He had a little, like a guest house that he was operating on the small holding. He found one of the employees washing dishes at 3:30 in the morning. And these robbers then accosted that employee, who pointed out where the owner of the house lives. And it was there that shots were fired, he was murdered, and they made off with his vehicle.
It looks like he was targeted. Now, we know that attacks on authorities, especially law enforcement authorities, can be concerning because they can undermine the rule of law and the justice system. How much of a concern should things like this be for government?
Well, it certainly is a concern for government. My colleague Vuyo Mvoka was recently speaking to Justice Minister Ronald Lamola at an event with the National Prosecuting Authority, and he put questions to the minister related to these kind of attacks. In this context, he was referring to prosecutors, but broadly attacks on the authorities. The minister had this to say.
We unfortunately having technical issues with that Ronald Lamola bite, where he's expressing that such action should be condemned. And let's take a listen.
Such action should be condemned. It's barbaric. It must never happen in any open and democratic society. Hence, I spoke also about the security in our facilities, in our courts, including in society as a whole. Society has a responsibility to ensure that members of the NPA feel safe and they are protected, because they must do their job without any fear or favor. And when they are being murdered or shot, it adds to the issue of fear. And that must not happen. It must not be allowed. Because if such kind of things happens, then impunity will set in, and we will find ourselves in a situation like other countries in the world, where for NPAs or police or prosecutors, for them to do their job, they might find themselves having to negotiate with drug lords, with criminals, with rent seekers in society. We can't have that situation. The NPA must do their job in line with what the Constitution and the Act says. They cannot negotiate with criminals, and criminals can't instill fear on the members of the National Prosecuting Authority so that they are scared to do their job. And such things must really be condemned with the strongest terms possible.
Now, Perry, I wonder what the response from the IPID and the police would be in this case of Mandla Mahlangu, who was a senior IPID investigator. Now he's been murdered under very, very questionable circumstances.
Well, IPID is not commenting. They're referring all matters to the SAPS. The SAPS, from the service level, are saying that they're investigating a case of robbery, but Police Minister bakkie has issued a statement as well. Firstly, condolences to Mandla Mahlangu's family. But he also makes an interesting statement, please give the police the space to investigate this. And my reading of that is that he's probably aware of the suggestions that there's something untoward that may have happened here.
Yeah, there are lots of question marks there. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of the truth. Thank you very much, Barry Bateman, on that story that's very concerning, the killing of a senior IPID investigator, Mandla Mahlangu. Now,